Mini Jake, the tribe has spoken.
Fuck you, Kevin.
Aw, fuck you too, sweetie.
I'm JJ, one of the original Tribe of Nerds members. You can catch me on Marvel, Pokemon, and other gaming podcasts.
What up? It's Josh, resident superhero nerd, but I also dabble in the occasional super villain as well.
Some may know me as the Chaos Gremlin, but really I'm just Joe King.
Pikachu, use Volt Tackle! Good job, Pikachu!
On the Tribe of Nerds. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Tribe of Nerds. Shane and I are here for probably one of our most exciting interviews that we've ever done. As you can see, we have the Queen of Survivor, Sandra Diaz-Twine, the first two-time winner in Survivor history. Sandra, welcome to the Tribe of Nerds.
Thank you guys for inviting me.
Yeah, this is amazing. And I just want to say I did meet you a couple years ago at Over the Edge. Well, I wasn't over the edge then, but I didn't get to meet you, so that was exciting.
Back then it was Give Kids the World. Now it's Over the Edge.
Yeah. So, but yeah, let's get into it. So we're pondering the multiverse, the question of what if something was changed? What would happen? How would Survivor history completely shift? So we're going to start with Winners at War. And so you ended up giving an idol to Denise that she would use to become the Queen Slayer. And what if you didn't give the idol to Denise? Or what if Denise had voted out Tony instead of you? What would have changed? Walk us through that.
If I wouldn't have given Denise my idol, which she did know we were going to vote her out, simply because I was like, Denise, I have to write your name down, but you're not going to go home, of course. Then that would mean that depending on who she writes down, right?
Yeah.
That person would go home, and most likely, because I'm not afraid of Denise and I think she's my friend, I don't know that I would be compelled to even use my idol.
Right. Yeah.
So I might still have gone home. After that happened to me, if I were to ever play again, I would use my idol for myself.
Yeah.
But at that point in time, I didn't fear her. I thought our friendship was above anything. I played with my heart and not my head. So I think the curse of day 16 from even the GOAT on Game Changers, I would have still went home with my idol in my pocket.
Yeah, and I mean, it can definitely be argued that Denise shouldn't have done that. Like, she should have kept you in
She told me she regretted it because it wasn't like she had a real friendship or relationship with Jeremy. She saved him, and it didn't pay off for her. It really didn't. There wasn't like a thank you for it or anything to that effect. So, but it's done.
Right.
So.
Right.
Well, the other option in that scenario was she could have, instead of writing your name down, she could have wrote Tony's name down.
Oh, but now you got to get her on the podcast then.
Yeah, that would have changed everything, obviously, because if Tony goes, you're still in the game. Let's say your tribe does win that last immunity. You then make merge again, and now the game completely opens up. So what might happen then?
There's no telling, because then Tony wouldn't be the king.
Right. Exactly.
I might have lit a fire under his ass for the second time, because he always told me I was responsible for him going home in Game Changers. Could you imagine if that would have been the scenario for, Winners at War? Because I always tell him, Tony, the only reason you won again was because I wasn't there.
Tony would have gone nuts on the edge of extinction if that happens.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, Tony's a different kind of person when he's not playing for the money. So yeah, he would have been gone berserk to then sit out there. Tony would have went home. He sure would have went home because he didn't even want to be in Vietnam with us when we did Game Changers.
Wow.
So he would have been like, I'm leaving. Like he would have done what I did.
Oh, no.
Listen, I'd put my hand on fire that he wouldn't sit at the edge of extinction because fuck this, I'm going home. I'm not gonna sit out. Like it's done.
Yeah, absolutely. Shane, you want to get into Game Changers?
Sure. So Game Changers was an interesting season because you come in being the only two-time winner. Every time you played, you won the game. And obviously it seemed to us viewing it like your really only downfall there was getting swap screwed when you went to Nuku 3.0. What if instead you weren't swap screwed? Let's say you go to Mana 3.0 where your original tribe has the numbers. Like, how do you think that plays out? And I assume you make the merge, and then what was your game plan moving forward?
Mana. So is that where Troyzan was there?
Yeah.
And who was there? Sari and Ozzy.
Yep.
Everyone else that had all those idols like Cole.
Yeah.
What
Aubrey.
was it 2 tribes at that point, or was it 3?
It was 2 tribes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
then,
it went from 3 to 2.
Right.
Yeah, so that had Haley Ford was there, Michaela, Sari, Aubrey, Troyzan, Culpepper.
So had I not been tribe swap screwed, what would have happened had I gone over there? We saw they dominated the game. I was in an alliance before the game even started with Culpepper and Troyzan, so I needed to be over there with my guys, you know?
Yep.
When JT told whispered to Culpepper, Sandra's got to go, he didn't know that my relationship with Culpepper superseded his relationship of 10 days with Culpepper, you know? So that's why I didn't go home when that whole debacle happened. And Malcolm ended up being the casualty of that. And that's why then JT, we took him out. But that would have been the best case scenario because then I wouldn't have been over there to eat the goat that put the curse of day 16 on me. Oh my God, I needed to be over there.
Yeah, I think it would have been really crazy as well to have you there again at that merge, and especially with, you know, some of that cast who kind of, you know, hadn't written their legacies yet. So
and that's what I get because I go in there and I put my hand and I do all kinds of stuff instead of just grabbing the one that the Lord wants me to get, you know what I'm saying? The buff. And I go in there and I do all kinds of mess and I just screwed myself. But if I could turn back the clock, you know, if I could go back in time, I always say I would go back on Winners at War and would give Denise my idol. But you guys made me see an alternative reality to where I need to go back to Game Changers where the curse of day 16 started.
Yeah.
It's crazy because that curse followed you across country. It's like even Australian Survivor.
It's Survivor. It's period Survivor. It's the curse of Survivor. It really is.
Yeah.
Well, with Traitors, because I know Traitors is shorter, but you know, like what day of the game you went out there? Because like, was it 16?
It was the last day.
Yeah.
I had the final banishment, and while I was doing my confessional, they went out. The final 4 went out to the front of the castle to finish the game there.
Yeah.
So I lasted to the very last day, but I'm not sure how many days that was. I know
it was 16.
I flew home the very next day. Well, we had exit interviews. It was so many people that were doing exit interviews with. I'd have to like look at maybe the ticket if I still have, like when I came back home and then when it started, because it didn't start right away when we got over there too. We were doing pictures, we were doing interviews, a lot of press for the second season, swim tests. wardrobe. Like, it's never, it never starts when it's supposed to. It's always like 2 or 3 days later, especially because the franchise was starting out to where I think they get better, like Survivor now. They know what to do. Boom, 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 boom. You show up, you're doing this. Da, 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 da. But with Traitors, it was so early on that they were still, getting everything right. Now they're on season 4, so I'm sure everything is streamlined, but I don't know how many days.
Yeah. That's because like Traitors, it's very unclear to us as the audience how many days that you guys are in there. So
but yeah, it was interesting going back to Game Changers that you mentioned. You had a pregame alliance with Culpepper and Troyzan, because it seems like Sarah Lucina also did and went to the end with them. So what was it about those two that attracted everyone to work with them?
So I just remember, like, one time I was talking to Evil Dick, and then I was telling him, "Oh, don't tell nobody, but I'm going to, like, they called me for Game Changers." And at the time he had his podcast, which I don't even know if he still has it, but what's crazy was we ended up having the charity event, the one in Orlando, and I found out that Culpepper and Troyzan also were gonna go, and then we just started talking like every day, probably for over a month. I don't know if it was like 2 months. I want to say we talked every damn day. We just, how it is, the minute somebody's going, what's your outfit for day one? What do you, like, let's say a cruise. Are you going to this excursion? Are you gonna buy the alcohol? Like, we were just talking about anything and everything Survivor, and trying to find out who else was going to be out there, but it was just us three. But also I was talking to Jeff Varner on the side too. So then I'm on this tribe, and I got Troyzan and I got Jeff Varner, and so I'm like, I'm feeling good, so it was just Evil Dick knew somehow, I think from Troyzan, that Troyzan was going, from me that I was going. He put us together. Troyzan played with Monica Culpepper, found out her husband was going, and then it was us three. I don't know if Sarah was ever in that mix beforehand, but I know it was me. No, I don't think so, because then they would have had to hang up with me to then chat with someone else. So I don't think that happened, but so we just talked about anything and everything. So then I felt really, really good until the curse of the goat. It really was the curse of the goat.
Yeah.
Well, so when you find out these are people you're talking to, like Varner, Culpepper, Troyzan, and you, and the four of you are going, like, what was your thought about what the theme could be? With all due respect to them, but like, you and them are two very different calibers of players, and I'm sure it was like hard to predict.
Nowadays they kind of already know what the theme is. I think it was already Game Changers was already, like, the name was already being thrown out there. Yeah, I can't be certain. I'd have to. Troyzan remembers more stuff than I do when it comes to this mess. And I always say that because simply the most recent thing I remember is what happened on the Traitors. You want to talk to me about Pearl Islands, I'm like, because I've been able to rewind and copy over it to where someone that's only played one season can only remember, but for me, it's been kind of stuff. But I think we had an idea of what the names were or something. But I don't think we had a clue as to who these people would have been, or who everyone was that was coming, because you don't always know. Like, even with 50, we had an inkling of who all might possibly be out there, but we didn't know all the names,
Right. Final what if scenario we wanted to go through with you, Sandra, is heroes versus villains, your second win, and we know you had this big rivalry with Russell Hantz, and so you spent all game wanting to take Russell out, trying to get the heroes to do it, and they just wouldn't do it. What if you had convinced the heroes to help you take out Russell? How does the rest of the game play out?
I wouldn't have won. I would not have won. The reason why I even made the merge when it was down to me and Courtney, and Russell was telling us it's one of you two are going home, and I was like, hey, Russell, if you allow me, you're running the game, I know this. if you allow me to make it to the merge, then if I'm on that jury and you're in the final 3, I'm going to give you my vote. And that's all I had to say for him to get me there. Yeah. And then at the end, it was like, oh, it's me, you, and Parvati. And then Parvati's like, it's me, you, and Russell. And Jerry's like, it's me, you, and Russell. And I was like, I just need to stay quiet because this is Lil and Fair Play all over again. No matter what happens, I'm going to the final 2 with one of them. Like, I'm going to stay quiet. But I said to Russell, I said, if you vote me out, I'm going to vote for Jerry. Rupert's going to vote for Jerry. Kobe's going to vote for Jerry. Coach is going to vote for Jerry. Danielle's going to vote for Parvati, and you just lost.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So... And I used to tell Russell all the time too, was like, man, this is the best case scenario for you because no one's going to give Parvati or I another win. They're not going to give us another $1 million. You're securing your win by making sure you're sitting next to 2 winners because ain't nobody going to give us shit. And at that point, when I met him on day 1 on the beach of Heroes versus Villains, his line of questioning towards me led me to believe, which I turned around and told Boston Rob and Courtney, if this guy doesn't win his season, he thinks he did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are you asking me how long does it take to get the check? How long does it take for the check to be deposited? What kind of interviews do you go on? Do you ride in a limousine? Like, why are you worrying about what a winner does unless you know for sure that you just finished winning your season?
Yeah.
So he thought he won 19. But I know when he left that final tribal council on season 20, he knew he got 0 votes because they dogged his ass at that tribal council.
Yeah. It's really funny to like hear how much like he went, like he only had 2 weeks in between Samoa and Heroes versus Villains, and the fact that he just thought that he was like the best player and had won the game by that point.
And he was a good player, let me tell you, but people don't realize he didn't come to camp and say, oh, by the way, I found my 10th hidden immunity idol. You don't say that. We don't know those things. So when people say, oh, he deserved it, we're going in there, not me voting, but other people are going in there voting with the knowledge that they have. And also you want to vote for who you like, who you're going to bless with this $1 million, because that's fucking huge. I'm not going to give it to somebody who talks shit about me, laughs in my face, talks shit to my alliance about me to then go back, put them on the jury, and then they go back and tell. Like, you have to have some kind of, you got to be a little bit nice.
So it was all about just like telling the heroes what they wanted to hear about Russell, about how bad he was, and then just like managing.
Yeah, well, I tried from the beginning. Like, me and Candace had an alliance. Candace lived here in Fayetteville at the time. Her father was a customer at the bank I worked at, and I would do, their business deposits. So I knew Candace, and then I only knew Rupert. I didn't know nobody else. And they ended up on the Heroes tribe, so I was screwed. But that's why the minute we merged, I ran to Candace. Like, Candace, I thought we were going to play this game together, but I didn't know that Russell had already gotten to her. And I'm telling her, oh my God, I can't do anything because even if I flip to the heroes, somebody already flipped to the villains, but she didn't tell me it was her, Yeah. So, and then when she did flip, and then she started getting not cozy with Russell, but always walking with him and talking with him, Danielle and Parvati didn't like that, because now it's like, wait a minute, which one of us two is the third wheel? It was us two with Russell. Now Candace has inserted herself in there, but who's the third wheel? So then the insecurity and all of that started to splinter that whole relationship. And I think they gave him an ultimatum. And when they took her out, they sure did, because they were like, you got to go, Candace.
Right. Anything else, Shane, that you wanted to ask?
I guess one last thing is, speaking of heroes and villains, so after the final tribal ends, like, did you have an inkling that you were the winner, or were you not positive until they read the votes months later?
Probably almost a whole year later. So even with Lil, the first season, I thought she won. With Parvati, I thought she won. The way they dogged me too, like Coach being, you're worthless, you're a waste of space. In my head, I was calculating, okay, Courtney for sure gave me her vote. Candace for sure gave me her vote. Everyone else was up in the air. I was like, okay, Danielle is still with Parvati. Coach is you know, Parvati is the best, because in fact, and that is the truth, from day one of Heroes and Villains, they wanted Parvati gone. And I've said that in my interviews, because I remember Randy coming up to me and say, if and when we get, if and when we lose, Parvati goes home first. And I'm like, who is this? Who is this we?
Yeah.
I went to Boston Rob and Courtney. I was like, did we decide who go, and then I told Parvati right away, like, girl, they want you gone. And she knew it. She had already been told, she had already been warned, and I kept thinking, like, oh my God, as long as she's in the game, I'm good, because this guy was telling me that, the older Randy was telling me that, and I'm like, telling the interviewer, like, he must not know who the hell I am for him to tell me she goes home first because she's a winner.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
Did you not forget I won too?
Right.
No. And I'm like, oh no, this can't go down. Because I felt like as long as she's in the game, I'm good.
Right.
At the time it wasn't called Meat Shield, but in essence, that's what she was for me.
Right.
Time. And then I was like, she can go too. Russell can go. I don't give a damn. I hate them all. Jerry, Coach. And who didn't I name?
You named everyone left on that tribe, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I get stupid sometimes. Like, I get like, when they piss me off, like, I don't give a damn what happens to me tomorrow, but you got to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Sandra, for coming on the podcast. This has been great to hear your perspective on What Ifs.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for the donation to my charity. That's what I've been doing. I was like, how can I raise these funds? I keep begging the same people for money. Okay, anybody that wants me on a podcast, you gotta donate to my charity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, another little plug. If you want to play Survivor Vanquish again, we're doing Traitors in a couple weeks with reality stars, and we're doing fans versus favorites. July 12th will be Traitors, and then Survivor will be the 25th or 27th.
Yeah, if y'all want to play with reality stars like Sandra and others, yeah, go apply for Vanquish.
All right, guys. Thank you for the invite. Severe weather storm coming. Oh my God. That was it. No more questions?
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you so much.
That was fast.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, and we'll see you all next time on the Tribe of Nerds.